Hi there. So for those of you thinking of getting the Model T Ranch distributor, I've noticed there's really no installation on video on YouTube yet for this thing, so I figured I might as well help out my fellow T owner. It came in a box and a bag. In the bag came instructions, the actual distributor unit, which fits in the same place as the commutator wiring, so this swivels. We got a 6-volt coil because I'm still running 6 volts, and a bag full of goodies. So in the bag you have an idler pulley because the belt needs to be moved over so it's not hitting into that, except on the early models, but most of the models. Got a rotor. We got the actual rider that fits over the shaft, so that's what actually actuates the points. And we got the hold down, as well as the I think that's the part that moves the distributor for advance and retard. And then it does come with some drills and a tap and die set. So the biggest challenge with this set is that you have to flatten the threads on one side of the cam. I guess it would be the end of the cam, because it has threads on there around. This needs to have a way to drill. Well, there's like a hole in the cam already, but this hole is a different size, and I guess there's a flat spot on here, and that needs to correspond to the actual cam. So you'll end up taking a file to the top of the cam threads, which I will show you when I do it, and then it's just a matter of the rest of it goes together pretty easy. So that's the part that's a little concerning. Anyway, I will start getting on the car. I will take the old piece off and go from there. Quality seems pretty good. I do notice that they drilled a hole, and when they did, they put some burrs on here, so I'm going to have to clean the burrs off. Other than that, the quality seems pretty decent. From what I've been told, this is like a Honda distributor cap. I'll have to see if I find any part numbers on it and share them with you. It doesn't look like it at this point, but I'm told it's like a Honda Prelude or something like that. And that cap is screwed onto the base with two hold down nuts. I'm going to take them off so we can take a peek in here. That's one. Two. Thinking that when I install this for good, I might want to put some blue Loctite on these, because I don't think you would want those to come loose in a bad way. Alright, there's the meat and potatoes. So we have a set of points, condenser, that rides on the cam and opens up the points. They say we have to lube that, which makes sense. There's your gap and all that. So again, I'm probably going to want to clean this up a little bit, and I would say whoever did the drilling and tapping and dyeing, well, probably, you know, I wouldn't call it the best machine work in the world, but I certainly wouldn't call it the worst either. So I just need to clean things up a little bit, and then we can get back into it. So I don't see, oh, there's some markings. A7-95 and then something at the top. I don't know, I'll figure it out. Anyway, so I'm sure it's not a hard cap to replace. So next we're gonna take off the old commutator and all that good stuff, and then we will install the new stuff. So I'm gonna do a running commentary on this deal. Alright, so at the car, I took the radiator out because I wanted to also remove the bushing for the crank start, which I did. That was fun. And now we're going to have to take this stuff apart. I'm going to keep the wires actually on the car and just wrap them up. Who knows if I ever want to go back. Just going to take this off of the 5/8. This is what holds the commutator on. And from what I understand, even though you're putting a flat spot in that cam threads, I'm told that it can be reversed. It's not a big deal. Alright, take the commutator off. Pretty much, it's probably in need of replacement or at least a damn good cleaning. But everything else looks pretty good. So we're going to take all that off. Boy, that looks not great. Yeah, this probably was in need of some attention anyway. And I was having some drivability issues, and so I decided I don't really want to play with this whole situation of the coils any longer. I mean, honestly, to make this thing run the way it should, I would have to take the engine out, replace the magneto, which is bad, and then probably replace his commutator, and then replace, or at least get the coils redone. Looks like that needs to be sealed when I put it back, because that obviously goes into oil. I'm just going to put that on loosely for right now. Let's start taking stuff apart here. So the cam nut is held on with a 3/4, and I'm going to take that off, and then I can get all this other stuff off. Okay, so cam nut's held on with a 3/4. So now we can take that off and get the wheel off and all that other stuff. This does look like it's a little damaged. I don't think that was put on correctly or something. But see that pin there? We're going to reuse that hole, and we'll be reusing that and actually tapping it. That's the way I understood it. It looks to me like, well, just had like a little pin in there. All this comes off. I'm going to be keeping all this stuff for future, just in case I want to go back. And then there's like this little brass piece, which I'm going to take off in just a sec. Yeah, let's see if I can get this with a pick. There we go. Alright. And they say we're going to be reusing that stuff to keep the oil in. Again, I'm going to keep this. And we're going to look at the situation here, okay? So they say that this hole, which we will be drilling and tapping, needs to be in the exact down position because the opposite side is what we're going to be filing. So I put some red magic marker on there, and I'm going to turn it till that's down. Okay, I think I mentioned that I am redoing my bushing for the crank, and I don't have the bushing yet. It's on the way. So until then, I got something set up for temporary cranking. I'm starting to think I should have taken the spark plugs out, but that's okay. Anyway, yep, she is blessed with relatively good compression. Alright, so almost there. There we go. I wouldn't be surprised if that was top dead center. The way they do these things. Alright. I think that is set the way they want you to set it. Now, we just have to file the top. Almost looks like somebody's thought about doing this before. There's a flat stop up there. That's weird. Anyway, that will be next. Taking a file tour. Alrighty. Okay, so it seems like I read that wrong originally. The flat spot on the top is for the actual rotor because it has a flat spot in it. Alright, so we have it filed down on the top. We have the rotor going all the way to the end of the threads. It's on there pretty good. So that's about as far as I had to go. You know, basically all the threads on one side. So she fits. So on to the next stage. So small challenge. The tap has broken off in the hole. Almost through. But it's still broken there, which is not cool. So now I gotta try and get that out. Too much fun. Alright, let's talk about where we're at here. Obviously I've made some progress since I broke the grub screw tap into the camshaft. So, got most of that out. Turns out that that little flat piece right here is what that, let me see if I can turn the engine over and show you where that hole is. But there's a hole that a grub screw is supposed to go into, and what I found out is that piece falls, I'm cranking this by hand, sorry. There we go. That piece goes on so hard that you really don't need anything holding it on for what it's doing, which is just opening the points, which if you watch, it is doing just fine. Alright. Got it set to 0.024 or something like that. Like it says. At any rate. There we go. So, if you can see, she's open. And she closes. Couple other challenges I've had. Fitting this on, it's a really tight fit. It needed to be basically deburred, cleaned, and then filed down a bit. It now moves like it should nicely. And the fingers are on there holding it on. No problem. It's tight. So that all went on after a little bit of re-engineering. So basically all I got to do is pop the rotor on, wire it up, put her all back together, and we'll see if she runs. It's a pretty basic setup, so I mean the engineering is sound, the thought process is sound. The quality of the aluminum piece, you know, I hate to be too nitpicky, it's fine, but it needed to be, you know, adjusted, which, you know, every T is different, so maybe he was like, look, some can be bigger, some can be smaller. If you have to file it down, fine. So I guess maybe I can be a little lenient on that too. The whole grub screw thing for the part that opens and closes the points, I think that was unnecessary to drill and probably could have been done a little better. I don't think it needs it. It's on there pretty damn good. It's not going to move around. And then making the flat on the piece here, I mean, I understand that he had to do it some way, so it's, you know, I wouldn't call it a, what's the word I'm looking for? Elegant way of doing it, but it does fit on, and it doesn't move around, so I would say it's sufficient. It's just, I don't know, it's not how I would have done it, but, you know, I probably would have made a sleeve myself, but whatever, it doesn't matter. It works, it's fine. So now it's just a matter of, like I said, wiring it up. It really should work. It's such a simple setup that I can't see why it wouldn't. The bearings seem pretty decent for the idler pulley that's going to push the belt over so it's not rubbing on the cap. So overall, now that I've gotten past some of my own inhibitions on this deal, I mean, if it works and runs fine, I'm going to say I'm happy. Is it like an easy first beginner install? No, you got to adjust things, and you got to know how the thing's supposed to work. So there's that. But that all being said, it all went together. It's all working as it's supposed to work. I get it, and it should function. So let's see what it does. If it works well, I'll say that it's, in my opinion, a better looking setup than the Bosch distributor setup. Obviously, the Bosch distributor is going to be a better quality, but if this functions, it's such a simple setup, I don't see why that's going to be an issue. So overall, I'm gonna give it a passing grade until we see if it runs. So, but this is where I'm at right now. I probably have, without including, you know, the problem I created for myself with the tap, I'm gonna say I have 2 to 3 hours into this. So, being it's my first one, I think if I was to do this again, I could cut that down quite a bit. So next, we'll be putting it back together, wiring up the coil, and seeing if it runs. And if it does, I'm happy. If it doesn't, not so much. It really should. It's, like I said, it's a pretty simple, straightforward gig. The way he wired this with a wire nut is perhaps a tad not cultured, but wire nuts are usually a no-no, and he does have 3 wires going to that wire nut, and I would redo that wire nut, or at least consider soldering it or something, because they're not held in any way other than the wire nut. Right now I'm going to let it go. I did go through it and tighten it up and make sure all wires are in there securely. At some point I may decide to take that out and solder them together and put some shrink wrap on it or something. But for right now, we're going to run it stock because I want to see how it works the way he designed it. So that is where I am at right now. Next, reinstallation. Okay, so got the advance and retard rod installed, have the fan installed, and pretty much ready to start. I have actually done some test starting, and it acts like it doesn't have enough retard. Oh, and by the way, I mounted the coil right there, so that's where I'm at with that. So not sure where I'm at yet with the drivability or the starting of it. It seems that it doesn't have enough retard, but I mean I've had it all the way down so that this was almost touching, just to see, you know, without the rod hooked up, and it didn't make any real difference. So I think the next thing to do is to check my gap again for the points and make sure that that's not an issue. But what it does is turns over, coughs, and backfires, and just acts like it's too advanced. So I did have to cut the head of that off because it was hitting the fan blade, and that was pretty much the only issues I've had with that. The belt does seem to be a little cockeyed. I might have to work on that. So it kind of seems like maybe this is like this or something. I might have to look at that. Anyway, but everything for the most part is together and done. Now we just got to get the poor thing to run again. So as soon as I figure that out, I'll let you know. I actually used the red wire from one of the cylinders, I forget which, and then I moved what would be the power wire onto the red wire. So I would assume that's cylinder number 3, and I used the power wire onto that cylinder because I'm not really, there's no coils in the box anymore. So when I turn the ignition on, it just takes that. That way I was able to use the actual harness. I just taped up the rest of the wires just in case I ever want to go back. And then you can see I use the red wire to the coil. Other side, which is the negative side, is to the distributor. And that should take care of all of that. So that's kind of where I'm at. There's some questions as to whether the belt's hitting some stuff, but it doesn't seem to be actually. It's not really rubbing, so that might not be an issue. Anyway, so if you look, when I do the advance and the retard from the steering wheel, it's actually moving the distributor. So this would be full retard, which is, you know, they said 11 o'clock, which pretty much is-ish. And then full advance, they say full advance is like 1 o'clock. Excuse me, I hit my turn signal on. So that's full advance. Anyway, so everything's pretty much, like I said, done, other than she doesn't want to start yet. So we will play and figure that out, and hopefully the next video, or the next addition to this video, will be it running. Alright, so obviously it runs. It still seems to be a tad advanced, I would say. So I'm going to have to try to see how I can retard this more. They don't give you a ton of room to retard it, so that's a bit of a challenge. I think I could retard it a bit more, but then I somehow have to make this, well, I guess technically that's full retard. But when I try to advance it, she seems to die. So I don't know what's up with that. Oops. Got to turn the ignition on. play with it a little bit more, but at least it runs. So that's proof in concept. So everything works. I'm going to turn the fuel back off before I forget. And I don't think I'm going to play with it anymore today, but I definitely think the advance and retard is a little weird. I mean, it just seems like it likes full retard on this thing, and it doesn't seem to want any advance. Then again, I didn't really warm it up because obviously I don't have the radiator on it. So that might be the next thing that I will play with. Anyway, I would say it works. It took a little bit of adjusting here and there to make it work. The last thing that happened that slowed me down was that the gap for the points was not correct, even though I thought it was, but it was not. So I reset it to a correct gap advance, and then I found that the rotor had moved a little bit on me, so I put an extra shim in the rotor, and that seemed to be the secret sauce. After that, she started right up like nothing. So the good news is I have a running car again, and it seems to have a lot more power off the bat, probably because before it just did not work. As far as the retard goes, I mean, it runs fine at full retard, and it starts fine at full retard, no backfires or nothing. And obviously I have tons in advance that I could play with once I warm it up. So we'll see. I'm going to say it's a win. I'm going to say it works. I'm going to say pretty decent value for money. I would say most of the, gosh, you know, if it was a choice between this and the Bosch, would I do the Bosch? I don't know. The Bosch is so freaking ugly. And these are not performance machines. I'm sure that the performance is similar between the two. I would assume the Bosch is a better quality in many ways. But let's face it, these are more of an aesthetic / just putz around kind of machine. And as long as the reliability is good on this, which we'll see as time goes on, I'm fine with it. So I'll probably maybe do an update on this a year into it while I'm driving it and stuff, and tell you if it held up all right. But I mean, it's so simple. I can't see this can be so bad. So I still got some adjusting to do as far as the advance rod and such, but overall, I think it's done. So that is my coverage of the Model T Ranch distributor installation. Hope you enjoyed it, and I guess you can put any comments or questions. Just don't even bother, going on and on about the buzz coils and all that. I just wasn't going to spend almost $1,000 to get that system to work right again. Between the timer and between the new buzz boxes that I need to send out to some guru, it just is not happening. And the buzz part was fun, but not that fun. I need a driver. This is going to have to be, I want to take this on trips and stuff, so that's what it's for. So anyway, I will give you an update in a year, tell you what I think in a year. As of right now, she works. Expect to do a little bit of sanding and making things fit and slight modifications. But it pretty much went together the way the booklet said. And honestly, I don't know if I would drill and tap the hole for that centerpiece on the cam. I don't think it's necessary. Just bop on the piece that he gives you. It fits very tightly, and it's really only moving the points, and that's not a lot of friction against it. So I would have skipped that, and that would have saved me a bunch of time. So anyway, that's where I'm at, and hope everyone is enjoying.